and maybe from here onwards, I can open or rather introduce my panel members. Ashish, Trambadia, can you please put on your video? Ashish?
Hello. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks. Thanks for
Thank
having me.
you, Ashish, for joining in. Ashish has really started his career in IIT Roorkee in 2002. He has done his bachelor's in Manit, Bhopal, and then he has done his master's in architectural conservation from SP in New Delhi. He is partnering with Poonam Trambadia in their architectural practice and heritage conservation practice. We are very lucky to have him because he is also the founding director for Ahmedabad World Heritage City Trust. He has worked hard for management and upliftment of the walled city of Ahmedabad because it is of its first kind to be nominated as a World Heritage City. And surely, as India, as a country, we were little less experienced in handling World Heritage cities. So, welcome, Ashish. I open the floor for you. Please make your comments and then I move on to the next panelist.
Thank you so much. Well, I think it's quite apt when you introduced Ahmedabad as a very unique case because it was a completely different model of interacting with heritage in the World Heritage list when we received this inscription for Ahmedabad. So it's very rightly pointed out by Vishakha ma'am initially in her presentation about the heritage regulations, and I think without losing much time, I would really jump on to the aspect of people's heritage. So not only from the kind of legislation purview, but how heritage actually can be taken forward by the people. This one royal farman in 1648, which was released from the emperor from Delhi to the citizen of Ahmedabad, whose property was acquired by the Subedar in Ahmedabad. Very interesting to know that this Subedar is none other than the son of the emperor who issued this farman. So this was the level of resilience we had as a citizen. I'm not really going into the identification of the emperor or people, but when people want something which is of a cultural, this property was a cultural institution. When we want something, we fight for it, we can get it, no matter if it was a monarchy system or a republic system like we have today. So this was one of the very interesting example from Ahmedabad as early as 1648 when the father gives uh, farman against his own son's what do you call it uh, act, which was in the case of Ahmedabad. Next one, please. The birth of local heritage for Ahmedabad was not less than 1831, when one collector, Bordel, invited the team of locals who gathered together and say, we want to do something about our fortification walls, which were destroyed much in the series of wars that we had fought earlier. So fortification walls was the place where it needed some kind of repair. This was the case where people met. Most of those who were representing Ahmedabad and its locals, they said we will collect a tax within ourselves on two commodities which are luxurious commodities. One was opium and the other one was ghee. So they started collecting 1 rupee extra on these commodities whenever they were sold or purchased in bulk. And that collection was utilized for the restoration of fortification walls. This was much before the foundation of the municipality of Ahmedabad in the British rule, when the local self-governance basically was for the purpose of heritage conservation. Of course, later on they had some surplus funding and then they started washing the streets, and roads were maintained by using this fund, which was in public forum. So Ahmedabad municipality's foundation was was basically the mandate of heritage, which was not but nobody's property that time. Next one, please. So these are some of the strong foundation cases where we have something which is belonging to people, but may not be property of an individual. Here is a case where it was a property of an individual. The very famous poet of 1850s, Kavi Dalpatram, whose house fell, collapsed. So in 2001, there was a private funder who said, I want to fund this entire activity if we can do something about this house which belonged to a very famous poet who not only gave us good poetry in Gujarati but also was very instrumental in founding the Gujarat Vidya Sabha, or the education society of Gujarat that time. That was one of the first initiatives where Kavi Dalpatram, the poet, was one good friend with a Britisher, Kinloch Forbes, and both of them did wonderful works. Most of the English literature was translated in Gujarati. Gujarati literature was translated in English and it traveled abroad. So I think it was globalization of our literary history and heritage that time. So why to forget that? In 2001, there was a private funder. It's like a CSR. It was not really a CSR project, but it's like a CSR activity where they said, I want to do something. What to do? Can we build that house again? If we do that, who will live there? If the poet and his family are not going to live there, who will live there? What will happen there? So what they decided is, instead of building the house, rebuilding the house which was collapsed, make a house plan for interpretation of the visitors how a Gujarati family lives, and install a life-size statue of the poet, which has today become a very important memorial. So it's like in last year, last year, we had mayors from almost 80 plus countries visiting this place. And we do a storytelling. We also sometimes recite the poetry written by poet Dalpatram. But this was one of the efforts which was done by the locals for themselves and to take their own social narrative forward, rather than being a monument. This is a very unique case where we are actually not talking about law as such, but what if society wants something? And this triggered to the founding of the heritage regulations for Ahmedabad in 2007. I think immediately followed by the regulations which were adopted by Mumbai and Delhi. Next one, please. Very recently, there was a mishap, and rather a kind of ignorance when we don't have legal protection for heritage. And during a development project for the state GSRTC, one heritage gate which was demolished. When I say heritage, it's, as Vishakha earlier mentioned, not protected by any law or regulation, but I think it is something which is in the eyes of people, in the memory of people, something which is very significant and landmark to the place. So this gate was demolished, which was for a public project as a development project in a PPP model, and there was no way we can help. But here we have got the empowerment which is given to the local self-government, who becomes a competent authority to allow or disallow certain kind of developments. So though you don't have any direct direct protection for this particular building which is not in the list as yet, the local self-government can always insist the developer to follow certain norms. The local authority, which is the Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation, gave a directive to the developer that they need to reconstruct the demolished gate in its original location using the original construction methodology and pay certain penalty. And before they could do that, only if they deposit certain security deposit, they would not be able to complete or initiate this project. So both the implementing authority was a government body, and permission issuing authority was a government body. In both cases, I think it was resolved by just putting in place the powers of the local competent authority for the development project permission. So this was a very unique case where both development and heritage were in place. The penalty was implemented on the developer, The security deposit was taken. Recently, the reconstruction of the lost gate was done. The original wooden shutters which were removed were reinstalled. So the original shutters are reinstalled in the new construction. So partly new, partly old, but it continues the narratives. And that's very, very important, because if you don't have direct regulatory powers, even indirectly you can interplay. This is not a case of the World Heritage Site. Last one, please. And there is a little video which I would like you to play. So it's one of the homeowners who is showing his home to some media people. I mean, this interview was taken by students of an institution for media. And he's explaining what is the heritage value in his property, how he has to restore and conserve the wooden artifacts that are there in his facade. And he's also informing about the heritage grade identification plaque, which is given on his building. So that's the level of pride. Now, this fellow has nothing to do with architecture or technical conservation. He's just an owner who started living in this house somewhere around 12 to 15 years ago. So he's not really a original community also, but that kind of connect that has come in Ahmedabad. So in case of Ahmedabad, thank you so much. I think one can stop the presentation. In case of Ahmedabad, we have got 2,692 structures which are privately owned heritage buildings included in the heritage list of Ahmedabad, and Ahmedabad Municipal Corporations provides the transferable development rights or tradable development rights for restoration of these properties. But what is more convincing to the owners inside the World Heritage Area is that if you want to retain such houses, whatever built up or FSI that you have is considered for your transferable development right, and you still retain the ownership. But if you want to reconstruct, there are so many other deterrents. Number one is the 300-meter regulation of the Archaeological Survey of India, which Vishakha ma'am earlier introduced. So if you want to develop anything in the World Heritage Area, 70% of the World Heritage Area is under the National Monument Authority Act or regulations under the ASI's protected monuments, because we have got huge density of ASI monument inside. So in that case, it is better to retain what is original rather than to demolish and reconstruct. So by default, repair, restoration becomes your obvious choice. If you are a heritage owner, you will be happy to restore your house. If you're not a heritage owner, you will still try and retain what your built up is. So that helps to protect and preserve the fabric of heritage. In case of Ahmedabad, which is very unique, which is a 5 square kilometer with more than 2,600 buildings included in the list. And we have got street networks, we have got building typology, plotting, which actually helps to protect the heritage in our case. Context may be different, but this is one of the very interesting example where everything works together to support each other. These
Right.
houses are not protected, and it works. So that's where I think I would end for now.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Ashish. Let me now bring in our next panelist, Sarath Chandra.
Yes, yes. Good evening.
Yeah. Let me introduce our next panelist, Sarath Chandra. Sarath Chandra is a conservation architect. He has his degrees from University of Gulbarga. He's done his conservation from SPA New Delhi. And the importance of him joining us today is that his work on World Heritage Site of Hampi on behalf of Hampi World Heritage Area Management Authority, which comes under the government of Karnataka, has been a first-hand experience, uh, which has given ground opportunity for handling a lot of conservation issues for more than a decade. So, welcome, Sarath. He also now leads a firm with a group of young conservation professionals that exclusively works in the conservation field for last 2 decades, and he has been instrumental in strengthening the capacities of the institution which are mandated for protection of heritage. So, Sarath, 10 minutes for you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. I'll just talk. I want to, of course, there are many points, but I want to talk on two aspects which I thought which are relevant to this. One is what this is something which I question always day in and day out. Uh, in fact, at the starting of my career, I used to be very sympathetic to one side of the stakeholders, and though I was working with the government as an as a consultant responsible for World Heritage Site Management, what should be the role of a conservation architect in when it comes to when it comes to a heritage jurisprudence, or looking at a law or enforcing a law and all these things, or or in terms of a legal dispute, because a lot of cases are filed in the courts where related with heritage protection and management against demolition or any XYZ things. So one of the things I found which is very productive, or what I strongly believe after my 2 decades of work on field, is that we as professionals should stick to uh, should very much stick to the technical and professional aspects of heritage protection and management. For example, we should stick to what is that we want to protect, what is the what physical fabric we want to protect, how is it possible to protect that physical fabric. We should be able to give the right technical input to many of the legal issues which are filed in the courts. And I found that most of the things where right technical inputs are given, actually we were able to preserve heritage. We should not get lost into personal emotions of losing some heritage. I mean, we have lost tons of heritage since past. We will be further losing it. It's all about how, as professionals, we should be able to manage change, mitigate change using our legal provisions in our legislations. I think that should the first point I would like to tell. I have been invited, in fact, many of the invited by many NGOs whom I associated with, or many of the public institutions who consult me on whether it is right or wrong, to defend their case and things like that. So I always stuck to what is good for heritage, or what is needed in the heritage, or what actions are needed to protect heritage, what are the real values of heritage, and how to protect them, is it really possible to protect them, and what how to mitigate change. That should be the role of a conservation architect, is I strongly believe. The second aspect I want to touch on is something in every aspect of the of my work. I found this, especially in when I work with sites like Hampi, which are living sites, which are living heritage sites. In fact, I remember when I was doing my internship at ECROM, one of the directors said a case of a World Heritage Site in Africa. They nominated a traditional art form of making redoing huts, something in Africa. The moment they nominated that hutments as part of the World Heritage nomination, the evolution of that has frozen. So the question is, does heritage means freezing evolution? Because evolution itself is is actually a heritage. That there should be continuous evolution. Now, my always question was, does our legislations allow for this evolution? I mean, I'll take an example of Hampi. In 600 years, Vijayanagara canals are functioning. Every day, the farmers know what is best for them. They are all functioning from last 600, still functioning. In fact, recently, Asian Development Bank has funded quite a lot of money in the name of modernization of Vijayanagara canals. That's the title actually of the project. And they pumped in billions of millions of rupees. Now, the question came, in fact, the interesting part is farmers wanted it, the change. Now, we as conservation, our legislation says, no, you can't you can't change the stone lining. There is a whole debate on whether there was a stone lining to Vijayanagara canals. One farmer who's living there from 60 years says, I haven't seen stone lining. Now the archaeological evidence says that there was a stone lining in some things, but they don't the farmers, the stakeholders who use it don't want it. They want a modern way of transporting water from place to place. But there is a whole ecosystem. In fact, there was an interesting argument by by some of the ecologists who, I mean, environmental people, that there is a whole ecology of worms, ecology of birds, which were feeding on these water system, and which was feeding on the bacteria and algae grown uh, on the in between the rock, in between the stones where the water is flowing, because in between those historic stone lining, as it was concreted, the whole all these worms and birds and started feeding on the irrigation valley and the agricultural fields. That's the other point they say. But the interesting part is farmers don't want the historic stone lining because they see that there is a huge amount of loss of water. But our act is not allowing that to happen, allowing it to change. Hampi Authority Act does not allow it to change. The now concrete was not there, or X, Y, Z material, the modern technique was not there in those days. But what do we do? So what do we protect in that case? So my view, what heritage protection and management really is mitigating change and managing change. How do we how do we how do we manage change? How do we consciously take a decision to manage change? Change is imminent. Yeah, so you call, I mean, if you just take one jhatka, say, if you remove it, then that may not be good. But have you consciously taken a decision? Have you documented it? I think how have you managed it well, that change, so that there is no impact of that on various other aspects. So this I'm just taking this Hampi as one example. There are many things. In fact, I mean, I'll take the example of Hampi Bazaar, which is which used to be a living site. Now it's a dead monument after demolition. But why not? Why can't we use it? Why can't modern day people use it? Why it should be kept as a monument? But our act does not allow that to happen. So does so these are the areas where I think, because where I think a lot of debate, discussion, our especially organized like INTACH, ICOMOS, these are the issues where one has to strongly build a movement and see that this part is included into the legislation. I think I'll stop here. These
Yeah,
are the two aspects I want to talk.
yeah, thank you. May I introduce our third panelist, Anitha Natrajan? Anitha Natrajan is a postgraduate in English literature and holding various key positions in the district and national level. She is appointed as a member of POSH committee at the Kanyakumari district administration. She is the immediate past district chairman of Inner Wheel District 321 and association council member. She now is a co-convener of INTACH Nagercoil chapter and has her own experience towards protection of heritage. But the method or that they have used is actually using the legal system through courts and through PILs. And I welcome you, Anita, to actually share your experience with us related to heritage protection. ASI Act or the Heritage Act clearly says that 100 years is the limit of protection, but there are many modernist buildings that we are losing fast. So, do you think there is a scope for protecting this monuments legally? Because one of the methods was through TCPO Act, but then again, you don't protect the building, you protect the land and the sites. So, do you see any hope of protecting the modernist building um, And are there any parameters which you are known of that can be shared with our audience?
Okay, I think in my opinion, there is once you consider something as monument, then there is a kind of direct dispute between its function and its aesthetics. So I think it's better to consider something, as Sharath pointed out, something which is living, as an entity which is living in itself. So I'll just read out, somebody also asked in the chat box about the parameters. I'll just read out certain parameters that we have in the regulations of Ahmedabad, which says value for architectural, historical, cultural reasons. The number 2 is date and design. 3 is relevance to the social and economic history. Fourth is association of a well-known person or event. Fifth is building or groups of a distinct architectural design and style or historic period, or way of life having sociological interest and community value, and something which is more of artifacts, chain of architectural development, its values as a group of building representing the forms. But in all of this, if you have something which is more flexible, in that case, if you have your value statement clear, your documentation, it may not be only drawings. When I say documentation, if your documentation points out these values very precisely, I think it will be better to uh, identify in such a manner that you have got not only it included in the legislation, but also its values listed along with it. So what are these values which we are talking to preserve? Is it only the tangible part of it? It is only the lime, plaster, brick, mortar, something like that. That's my way of thinking.
Yes, Sarath, what would you say?
I mean, there are very modern buildings. Like I can talk about R.K. Lakshman's, the famous Malgudi author house, and many like Kuvempu's house, the famous poet of Karnataka. All their houses are protected under the Town and Country Planning Act.
Okay.
They have protected the building, which indirectly protects the space, which indirectly protects the intangible aspect also. So as I said earlier, it is up to us to define the values what we want to protect. I think it's there are the Town and Country Planning Act. There are enough provisions to protect if there is
Even
willingness
70,
to do it.
even 74th schedule can protect. The municipal
Yeah.
corporation itself can protect.
Yes. Yes. It
Nowadays,
can
we are
protect.
so powerful that we can get the protection if we wish to get the protection.
Yeah. So that the problem is the act does not go after a certain time.
Yes,
The people who enforce it has to prepare the necessary rules for identification, rules and regulations of its enforcement. In fact, the saddest part in Hampi Authority, what has happened is it's all protected, but everyone says that Hampi Authority Act is unique and all those things, but the rules and regulations they did not prepare for first 10 years. So
yes,
where is the question of enforcement? In fact, if you look at many of the state level acts, there is no rules and regulations. It is only the act which is there. They have never detailed out properly the notifications. They haven't never detailed out the extents of the property. I've been part of many city level committees, heritage committees. The discussions there happens in a very, very vague manner. There is no concrete discussion happens because the definition of what is protected as heritage itself is vague.
it's very
So it's all decided based on just not a proper conscious decision making process. Yeah.
sure. May I ask Anitha,
Yeah,
please share your views,
sure.
and then I would ask some questions to you also. Yeah, please.
Okay. I'll be saying something about our district, a short glimpse into our district, that is Kanyakumari district, and the PILs that we fought, and the outcome of it, and all those in my speech and all. Kanyakumari district is located at the southernmost tip of India, Indian subcontinent. Because to understand our place and all, you should know about what is Kanyakumari district and what all it's about, the heritage things. It's a region rich in natural beauty, cultural diversity, and historical significance. It's known for its stunning landscapes. The district is bordered by the Arabian Sea, the Indian Ocean, and the Bay of Bengal. This unique geographical setting makes it popular among tourist destination, especially for witnessing the convergence of the three seas and experiencing the breathtaking sunrising and sunset. Kanyakumari is also home to the iconic Vivekananda Rock Memorial and the towering Thiruvalluvar statue. And recently, you know, that first of the kind glass bridge is being laid between the Vivekananda Rock Memorial and the Thiruvalluvar statue. It's the first of the kind in India. And it is also a place characterized by the lush greenery with rolling hills, fertile plants, and everything. And here, Hinduism, Christianity, and Islamic, it's a vibrant cultural tapestry influenced by these three religions. This cultural richness is evident in its temples, churches, and mosques, alongside local festivals that reflects the harmonious coexistence. That is the beauty of Kanyakumari district. And along the coastal line, there are more than 85 built heritages, but they are at the thresh of destruction because of the rise of sea level. Throughout from bordering from Kerala till Ramanathapuram, we are just between this Tirunelveli and Kerala. Our district is Janus faced, to say, because we have both the culture of Kerala as well as Tamil Nadu. And we have the St. Saviour's Church, which is Gothic architecture, Padmanabha Palace, an exquisite wooden palace. You should all visit just to see it. It is all made of wooden. Lot of architectural styles, Kerala style, as with intricate carvings and expansive courtyards. You should all visit Kanyakumari district at least to witness these places and all. And the another notable palace, we have a lot of forts and palaces. Here the palaces, we called it at there are three types. We don't have very elaborate palaces and all. Padmanabha Palace is quite elaborate, quite big. But others are Ammachi, they say, Ammachi palaces. So it's only exclusive for the women folk of those Travancore kings. It was ruled by I kings, then Chera, Chola, Pandya, and later on Waynard, and then the British. But the Mughal influence is not much seen in our place because all those invasions stopped within this Madurai. So there are more than 85 built heritage buildings identified in the coastal areas, which include historical buildings like Dutch War Memorial, a lot of lighthouses, numerous churches, temples, and mosques. And all these are kept intact because these things are taken care of by the respective religious bodies and all, like what he said. They are all taken care of by the religious bodies, that diocese, temples, and the work building. They are all taking care of it. So they are all kept intact. And we have a lot of temples, and there are Kumari Amman temple, then Tanumalayan temple, and all those things. And today they have asked me to speak about the public interest litigation by INTACH Nagercoil chapter. As we all know, public interest litigations have emerged as a pivotal tool in the legal landscape, enabling individuals and groups to seek justice on matters that affect the broader community. By allowing the citizens to approach the courts on behalf of public welfare, PILs have played a crucial role in enhancing accountability and transparency within governmental and private entities. These litigations have been instrumental in addressing issues such as environmental protection, human rights, social inequalities, often leading to significant policy changes and reforms. Through PILs, judiciary serves as a guardian of public interest, ensuring that the rights and well-being of the people are prioritized and safeguarded. And INTACH Nagercoil chapter has the history to have more than 24 public interest litigations and won in almost all. But most of them are against social and environmental hazards. And I have listed only 10, and I can speak about others also. Public interest litigation against buildings in CPR Park. CPR Park is a very old one. It was built by the Sir P. Ramaswamy. It was a divan of Travancore king. And there were some encroachments that some business buildings they started building inside the park, and we have filed for this PIL, and one in favor of us, and it was demolished. And against encroachment of the roadside for private bus shelters with commercial motive, and this was also fought, and it was they have stopped the construction of the roadside private shelters. And this is quite important against Kanyakumari CRZ violation in Kanyakumari town coast, which Madam said about coastal regulation zone. So there is a park facing the sea. You all know about the importance of Kanyakumari, the convergence. That's why I mentioned about the convergence of three seas, Arabian Seas, Bay of Bengal, and the Indian Oceans. And every day, thousands, maybe lakhs of people visit Kanyakumari. And there was one person who got the permission from the local body to construct. He said that he will be maintaining it as a park. But actually, his motive was to build some commercial buildings or some structures so that he could get money and all. So he got this place from the local body, and he started doing some work and all. So it came to the INTACH Nagercoil chapter, and Dr. Lal Mohan, he was a fighter, and immediately we started working on it, and we found that it's against CRS this law. So it was that person, he said he had spent a lot of money to get the license. He got the license also to build some structures inside that buffer zone, that area. But it was brought to the, it was filed, PIL was filed, and it was taken to the district collector. And that time there was one lady, immediately she stopped that construction work, and she asked the person to demolish that structure that he started building. And only a few that it was allowed to put some only a few benches and all that also without that it's only, it should be made of some not it should not use any plastic or some things like that that shouldn't make any hazard to the environment. That's what the judgment said, and it was done. But recently, we have found that a lot of things being done in Kanyakumari area because of the construction of this glass bridges. And so every day, lakhs and lakhs of people, thousands of, even in an unseasonal time, thousands of people are visiting Kanyakumari. So we should keep a, I have some questions also regarding this. We should keep a vigilant regarding this judgment and all. And against, another one is against cultivation of lotus plants in irrigation tanks. Everyone, we say lotus plants is our national flower and all those things. But there are a few farmers, they are using public, that PWD irrigation tanks to plant, to cultivate lotus plants for commercial purposes and all. And so they were all using some fertilizers and all those things. In a few days, it would be covered with all the plant and the leaves and all. So evaporation, a lot of evaporation would take place, and the quality of the water it was very bad for consumption and all those things. So again, we filed this PIL, and it was favored in favor of it. It was in favor of us, but later on there was one writ, and it was taken to the Supreme Court also, and the judgment came, very clear judgment was given regarding cultivation of lotus plants in irrigation tank. But now again they have started, because it's a lucrative business in this part of the place, Kanyakumari district, with lot of temples and all these things. It's a lucrative business. So they have, again, we should keep vigilant on this. And PIL against NH road over Nagercoil irrigation tank, and PIL to desilt and deepen Taniadi tank. There is one in Kalkulam village, and against construction of ration shop inside Taliyapuram. There is another Taliyapuram park, and all these things. Okay, small things and all. And another one is again encroachment of Chemangalam park. That some local politician, he got that patta, rights for the public irrigation tank on in his name, and he started encroaching that place. And again, INTACH Nagercoil chapter filed a case against that Chemangalam place. It was a very big thing, and it was taken back. And now it has been converted to a roadside park, and I have shared the pictures to ma'am, and she'll be showing at the end of this. And again, illegal conversion of paddy fields into housing plots in Puteri river lakeside. Again, it's another problem in Kanyakumari district, because it is a very small district. It's the smallest district maybe. And with lot of fertile places, lakes, rivers, and so the land value is exorbitant. So a lot of encroaches is being done, and the paddy fields are being converted to converted to housing plots. And this is the threat that we could find in Kanyakumari district, and PIL was filed, and we won the case also. Now again there is, but the government will not give permission if somebody is building plots in. But the local politicians, again, they are, so all the time, even though that we have this PIL and all these things, we have to fight against the local politicians, because it's a very lucrative business for them, and they are all doing this. And against shops in Anna bus stand, waiting shed and all. All these 24 cases, more than 24, and construction encroachment in Anaket, that is, that was also fought. And there is an iconic place in Tower Clock that was built during the British period, and the clock was brought from UK, United States and all. And there were people using to keep it intact. Again, INTACH has to do some thing and all. Now it is being that, but in by the side of this tower, this is that's a monumental tower, more than 80. It was constructed in 1893. But there was one, there is a statue of someone, actor who turned a politician is there. But I don't know whether we could fight against it. And when we, if at all, we fight it back and all. I don't know whether they will allow, because again that caste and religion and all those things would come in, and all these are about the fights that we had, and to and using this free legal aid. I saw one person asking any member of any citizen can file. Any citizen can file a case if it is in the interest of the public. So, with using that free legal aid, that other than that, if you want a very good advocate to do all these things, we have to spend some amount, maybe 1,000 to 10,000, 30,000. It depends on how we should get the things done in our favor and all. So all these things I just and I have shared a few pictures, and if it is, I could say what we have done. There is one Chatram building. It doesn't belong to state or to the nation, but as ma'am said, it is by the interest of community asset, maintenance of community assets, as Professor Vishakha said. We gave a application to our mayor, corporation mayor. He got it, and he he allotted some. He got the permission of, I don't know, and they now they are going to they are not going to reconstruct, but they are going to maintain it. That is one thing. Maintenance of community under, I think it comes under maintenance of community assets, because we couldn't find that it doesn't belong to any nation or state or something like that, but it's a very beautiful one. I had shared a picture of it, and so these are some of the, and the Chemangalam park, you could see the picture beautifully. Now the corporation is maintaining, and every now and then we'll be going there just to see, because it's a place that we fought and got it back. So
I think you are bringing out this very important fact that we have to be vigilant. And the
yeah,
moment we are not vigilant, then there is somebody else who can undo every effort that we have taken to
yeah,
make it
exactly,
into a
ma'am.
heritage.
But can we do something with if at all somebody has, without our knowledge and all, if somebody has, encroached it back and all, with getting all these laws, everything is with us only. All these, judgment, all these things. Can we file again if somebody
But
encroaches?
but that is also something that we should debate on, because once you do it through your PIL, somebody else comes and then again he does the same to
Yes.
get the heritage being hampered. Again you have to do the same thing again.
Yeah,
So
that's
can we inbuild mechanisms for the unprotected is something that we have to think about. On the other hand, I must congratulate you, and I must share this with a lot of INTACH conveners and co-conveners, or as vigilant citizens also, that it is really not a battle fought and won by just winning it in courts. It is really that you have to be vigilant and keep on being vigilant
yes,
over a period of time till that whole place is acknowledged as heritage for the entire community.
yes.
Because many a times it is happening that our communities itself are getting so cosmopolitan, and lot of people are coming, lot of people are leaving us, young generations do not find any meaning being there. We are losing lot of things which could have been to our heart by just not being there around.
Yeah,
So
exactly. So we are also in a way busy and all, when after some time, but these people who are encroaching, they are very alert. If so that they could do that thing, when we are, when we are busy in some other thing and all. This is
Right.
always happening, and
Sarath and Ashish, may I get you to one another point is, ASI has a mandate to maintain the monuments, but if when they themselves are not doing it, what as a citizen can we mechanism do we have to get the alertness of the organization? Because maximum times it is seen that they are just left to the mercy of time. Is there any? I think we'll ask Sarath to go through it first because he has his first hand experience on that. Yes, Sarath.
Well, what can one do if they're not doing their job?
I mean, that is also why we are losing a lot of heritage. So,
Yeah, it is. I mean, there are enough internal rules and regulations within their governance system. But the point is how it's beyond that. It's like, for example, I'll take one example. I was told I was involved in one project in Shore Temple. I was involved in one project of Anjaneri group of temples, and I was involved in Hampi. I'm just telling from my experience. In all three places, stone is deteriorating,
right,
and the scientific wing of ASI and the archaeologists and the conservation people, conservation engineers and architects associated with the thing acknowledge that the material with respect to their respective monuments, Shore Temple, brick Gopuras of Vijayanagara, and Anjaneri group of temples, if you leave it like that, you are going to lose them in 100 years with the pace of deterioration. We
right,
know that, everyone acknowledges that, but our no one is taking a decision. Why? Our historically, apparently, Shore Temple had a plaster over it, which was protecting the stone.
right.
Why are we not taking a bold decision of replastering it to protect it, or some protective coat over it? I'm not saying you should do plaster only, but now with that latest technology, there are many things. Anjaneri group of temples, it's a poor basalt which was used, and the basalt is becoming crumbling powder and everything. One of the conservation scientists who was retired from ASI tells that if you leave it like this in 100 years, nothing will remain there. It will be only powder. So where is the long-term vision and accountability? In the last 20, 30 years of Hampi, I know how much of brick has deteriorated. There are many officers who were worried and who wants to work on it, but their span of thing is only to look at, predominantly they were always firefighting.
Right,
It is, I think one should go beyond firefighting. One should have a long-term vision. One of the biggest things in government is continuity of decision making is not there. That is my observation.
right,
uh, State and central, because they move forward to other things. They are transferred in 2 years and things for whatever XYZ reasons. But the next person should, so that, but the continuity, but the monument is the same. Why is that continuity on rigorous effort of preserving something which is not going ahead? Like the same monitoring, same planning should happen year after year after year after year after, which is not happening. That has to be built in, no? I mean,
right,
if you look at the legislation, it is there. Provision, what it's legislation says you have to provide, but where is a plan
right,
for it? There is no plan. I mean, we as all citizens, professionals, as a citizen of India, you can always ask. No one is stopping you. Why? I mean, we can put an RTI application and ask what measures are you taking. No one is stopping any one of us.
right.
Even we are also, all of us as community, as people of this country, are also looking at short term things. We are only firefighting.
Yes, long-term visions have to be there.
Yeah.
Okay, let me come to one important aspect which lot of queries were there that were related to adaptive reuse, and I think I'll allow Ashish to say something about it. This commercialization of heritage, in one way, is looked upon as an opportunity to solve all national problems of our country. On other hand, we all know through our experiences that not every adaptive reuse is a successful story, and there are failures on various fronts, and lot of efforts have gone into getting a structure to a proper use, but then that misuse starts, and what seems to be a wonderful opportunity is very, very detrimental for the heritage in a long run. So how do you look at commercialization and adaptive reuse? And before you give the answer, I would also like to uh, um, mention about this unique legal quote unquote situation, because the moment you want to use a fort for destination marriage, all you do is you deprotect it. So this especially happens with state protected and municipal corporation protected or local authority protected monuments. Today you protect it, tomorrow you deprotect it. You means this is something that is not only disturbing, but it is also how do you look at things? Like one way it is good, one way it is bad, and decision making then becomes more difficult. So I will allow all three panelists to speak, but we start with Ashish. Yeah.
Sure, I think, I mean, initially we felt when adaptive reuse concept was being adopted, and of course, Ahmedabad also being a living site, we have got continuity of use. Whatever attempts has been made, I would not criticize their attempt, but wherever there was an idea of having certain financial sustainability, most of it actually failed. But when you say if you have certain things which were built in a proper form for say its own original use, whether it's a heritage school or a heritage house, if it continues for a similar activity, it actually sustains. So what happens is, because it is not only that building which will work independently, because it will be also the entire neighborhood which was designed or which was its support system which works together. Having said that, it is not easy also to find out solutions for adaptive reuse. So it is always better to identify what is adaptive and what is not. I mean, for that matter, even visitation just as a tourist is also sometimes not that adaptive. हमारे यहाँ we have got in one museum in Ahmedabad, which is a private museum, where they say maximum number of visitors in a day are 25. We will give you a guided tour for 45 minutes, but your registration has to be done in advance. We'll take you to a gallery and you will be standing there only for 5 minutes. This is a museum of textile, and textile is very, very fragile. So they're very conservative. They say, this is the valuable product that we have. Why to risk that? We will allow that window of exploration, but not beyond that. So entire sustainability is not because of the earning from the tourist. Though, of course, there are so many other activities.
Sarath, some views on that? Unmute yourself, please. Yeah.
You're still on mute.
This word commercialization is not a bad thing.
Right, right.
I mean, you need money to sustain heritage. It's about what impact, like the carrying capacity thing, what he said,
Right.
what impact it'll have, and do it. That's what I said about Hampi Bazaar. They all say no commercial activities are allowed. What does it mean by no commercial? I mean, the bazaar was built for that bazaar commercial activity.
Yes, yes.
So, in fact, there was an interesting study because this whole argument came up in one of the integrated management plan meeting.
Uh-huh.
And the study was because DG got fed up with this argument. KN Srivastava got fed up with this argument. One side, all some people say it's a bazaar, you should use it. Some of the people who say no, it's a monument, you should not use it. But the point is, what was historically there?
Right.
Why was it built for? So ASI DG commissioned a study that, okay, look from archival or ancient texts and things, why it was built. Though everyone knows it was a bazaar, but so the point is they found that yes, it was built for certain activities. It was just not bazaar. It was people living behind the bazaar and so many things. So it's about whatever adaptive reuse we are putting, what impact it will have. I mean, if you look at Adopt a Monument scheme now in Karnataka, one of the main reason why Adopt a Monument scheme in Delhi failed, in the Ministry of Tourism failed, because I worked with 2-3 corporates who adopted. Many corporates backed out because there was no sustainable model in it.
Right.
It was all, okay, you put your CSR money and you do it and forget it. It was their prestige which was involved in that, because tomorrow Tatas will find that whatever they have invested has gone down the drain in 1 year because it was never maintained. So many corporates who came forward to bid went back. Now that same scheme in the Karnataka state level got tweaked now, Adopt a Monument, and they used a term known as semi-commercial activities. Like you are allowed to use that for activities that not have, but the money generated from it should be used for the maintenance of that monument only. So there is suddenly a lot of interest, because they know that what investment they do in protecting XYZ monument will sustain on its own, even if they don't get involved in its future.
Right.
So commercial, the point is, it's sustainable. Adaptive reuse is the right term. I mean, commercial, non-commercial is a separate aspect.
Right. And it has to be in use to get protected. As I say always, once you obsolete it, it goes out of mind, thought, and also use. And
Yes.
then it is very difficult to actually protect it also. Same is happening with a lot of traditions. If you are not using it, they are just lost. Anitha ji, may I ask you about community participation? Because I think you are very successful in getting community together to be vigilant, to be watchful, and
Yeah.
therefore having this vigilant community, you are being able to protect so much, even when there is so much of hardcore pressure on you to let it go. So, what do you think about community participation? Does it really help, or
Yes.
yeah, please.
It is because of the literacy rate, I believe. It is, very high in Kanyakumari district. It is more than 90%. So almost everyone is aware of their heritage, and heritage value is, I believe that it is instilled in our blood. So when something happens, immediately somebody will point it out. So this is happening here. So even now, when something happening in the coastal areas and all, those people belonging to the particular area, they approach us. Or somebody, now they know that we are working on heritage and all, so they approach us. So it is that. So that's why the community, awareness about the heritage, the importance of heritage is there in the people, and so they are using. And when Sarath was saying about this Hampi and all, we are having some palaces. I said no. In Ramavarma stayed in a palace in Nagercoil. It is being converted to district collectorate. It is inside the collectorate. District administration is running inside this place, and PWD is in hold of it. So all those places, they are not keeping it as it was during those years, 200 years back or something like that. but each and every part of that summer, it was meant to be the summer palace of Ramavarma. So now that everything being maintained very well because of the awareness that it all belongs to our place, our heritage, and all those things. And only one thing, that Iranian palace, it was in a dilapidated state, and these government, they are converting into it as subcourt or schools or something like that. That's why I believe that they are being maintained well. And something, when something happens to the environment and all, immediately these people, they start fighting. Like Kerala people, our people, just immediately they would start fighting. So the this awareness, because of the awareness of the heritage importance, we are getting enough input and all those things.
Yes. There are a lot of questions which I think I have answered. The panel has answered. For example, there was this question related to modernist buildings in India, whether they are valued, how do we go about it? I think we've answered more or less that question. There is this question about megalithic dolmen sites or early medieval heritage ruins. Are there any protections that automatically apply to this site without the need of formal notifications? No, because these sites are very much archaeological in nature. So I think the best thing is to write to approach ASI for protecting them. Yes, Anitha ji, do you want to add
Yeah,
something?
there is one megalithic structure, but these people, they will construct some temple around it. So now it is being kept very intact, because it they say that it belongs. It must be dated back some 2000 or 3000 years back, because it's only one structure, like one stone structure, but they have lot of stories associated with it. Most of are religious, so
Correct.
they are keeping it as a we visited that place. There is one temple, and every year during the Shivaratri, one the people that they will just go there. 12 places they would be running around. It's a kind of religious marathon. It would be in every Shivaratri, every year it would be there, and they would visit that particular temple. There is one monolithic structure is there, dated
Okay.
back some 2000 or 3000 years back, more than that.
Yeah. Sarath, I would wish you to come in to answer this question, because the question is related to Golconda Fort, and you have experience of working with Hyderabad. So, how do you look at encroachments which are there in the walls of Golconda Fort? And when government officials themselves are ready to destroy gardens which are there in the fort to let the golf course come in, then how does a citizen look at that situation?
Well,
Tough question there. Yeah,
my first answer is first check whether it is protected, legally protected. If it is legally protected, whether it's a government officer or anything, it's a violation.
all right.
So now, under what provisions he made that, is it legally valid? One has to check, and anyone can question it. It can be, if it's wrong, then it can be taken to court of law also.
Right. But that legal awareness has to be there, and
Yeah,
willingness to engage with the legal processes also has to be there.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There is one more question that is related to World Heritage Sites. I think for World Heritage Site, the delineation of buffer and controlled zones is always very clear, because otherwise the nomination doesn't get through. So, do you think buffers and regulatory zones help,
Yeah,
especially when they are
actually,
so overlapping?
That's a very interesting question. Actually, there are many PhDs happening on this delineation
Right.
of things. Uh, in fact, the Hampi story has a very interesting thing. The earlier World Heritage boundary used to cut the village into half, the properties into half, because it was arbitrarily drawn.
Right.
Then they aligned it along the property lines. Then
Right.
some part of the village revenue limits was coming in, some others was not coming in, and it was becoming difficult for the administration to deal with it. So they rationalized the boundary by removing some villages and by adding full villages.
Full villages.
Uh, but how do we delineate a buffer zone? How do we demarcate that this is the limit to which a property needs to be nominated as a World Heritage Site? It varies, no?
Right.
It depends on depends on the significance. Many a times, the current trend of what is happening in ASI is they try to limit the boundaries to their 100 and 300 meters,
Right.
the nomination of a World Heritage Site. There are many instances where the large areas were protected, considering its overall significance, but these were never accepted.
Right.
So it depends on who is decision making on that, how significance is being defined, how it depends on various criteria to delineate this, and there is no one answer to it. For
Right.
example, just the case of in Hampi, because it is becoming difficult to administer half villages in World Heritage Site and leaving out half the village, they had to change it.
Right. Sure. And I think that was wiser thing to do also
Yeah.
because it makes no sense. Ashish, can you come in? Because multiple laws have their own mandates towards protection. And
Right.
for example, as you mentioned, master plan can only show the lands that are getting protected, but the buildings within those lands are really not the mandate of TCPO, though they might encompass it as a part of their delineation. So, how were these kinds of challenges addressed in the Ahmedabad case studies, like Ahmedabad?
So here, yes, yes, I think yeah, it's very relevant. So what happened is under the local regulations, we made certain things possible because of the choice.
Right.
So, I mean, one cannot deprive the owner or the rights of developments on his lands, but the local authority being competent enough to provide certain do's and don'ts in terms of the development. So, for instance, our floor to area ratio (FAR) or FSI inside the World Heritage Area is frozen. So there is no further extension or even purchasable FSI allowed in the World Heritage Area. So by default, whatever you are retaining is actually more. Our existing or the current FSI is actually lower than what is mostly in 75% of the properties built already. So if you want to retain that much of a builder, you will be by choice going for a retention or restoration or retrofitting rather than reconstruction. So that was one way in which the TCPO Act could help. Second is we introduced certain facade guidelines also recently. It's yet to see how community will react to that. But being a local authority, because we are also the people who would elect our representatives, who would interact with our administrators, directly. The building facade guidelines also being mandatory requirement for the approval drawings in the World Heritage Area now. Let's see in future how it turns out to be, but there are ways in which we can make things go in certain harmony.
Right. Now, I would like to highlight certain dynamics which are related to heritage protection, which we have really not found answers. One is the value. What is valuable to one may not be valuable to other, and value which is maybe not seen of importance today might be very different in later years. the whole political process, the apathy of the political process is also a dynamics, like what Anitha has been really pointing out, that you struggle to protect and then the politician comes and he wants it in certain other way. So there's always a constant engagement to see that the political process is towards protection of heritage. Then cultural sensitivity of the society itself is changing so fast, so getting everyone on the same page is getting difficult. There is something called as good and bad about heritage. Once upon a time, colonial heritage was so much of a prime importance. Today, because the Indian identity and Indianization is coming so upfront, that now we do not want to acknowledge also that there is something called as colonial heritage. Then there is the journey from a nation of developed country. We want to become a developed country. We want land, and every piece of land in our country has some heritage associated with it. So this entire journey of developed to underdeveloped to developed is another very difficult dynamic that we can address. There is always about economic benefits that we talk about, from where the heritage has to sustain, and in order to sustain we have to have economic benefits, otherwise the wrong precedents will soon take over. Of course, tourism has to be looked into with a great consciousness, because now people don't like to go to crowded places, and suddenly a non-crowded place, in the name of being non-crowded, gets crowded instantly. The best example was the Konkan strip, and all small little homestays, they got overbooked and Goa became empty and the Konkan belt got busy. So these are the dynamics that we have to deal with, all the heritage protection that we go. But I think I would ask all three panelists to conclude one by one to what do you think is the scenario. Of course, laws also have to be amended continuously. There has to be a continuum, and professionals have to work hard on jurisprudence. The lawyers have to work hard on its implementation, and in between comes the administration, who also has to do continuous work. And I think when it comes to heritage law, all three have slowed down. And as Sarath keeps on saying, we are always firefighting, but not having a long term vision. So, how do you see the future if we ourselves don't get into the action mode? Where do you see the future of Indian heritage? Ashish, would you like to start?
Sure, I think your first step is, I mean, it's quite obvious to the beginning, is to, if you are not sure what are your values which are going to be futuristic, you should list down, you should document and create a repository of knowledge base. So, I mean, that's the first thing that everybody needs to do. If we have a knowledge base, which INTACH is doing for many years, in case of Ahmedabad, we started doing with a proper team effort where we have got architectural documentation, historical notes, and also the condition checklists. So there are at least three layers of knowledge base, which is always becomes a repository of the listed buildings for Ahmedabad. Not everywhere it is possible to fund this kind of activities, but collectively, if we can make the repository of knowledge, we will be making better choices, I would say.
Yeah. Sarath?
Yeah. Uh, 1 minute. I I mean, what I believe is, as a professional, I I would like to uh, publish or convey my experience through that knowledge, what is gained through my practice. I would like to publish it, because the scholarship of conservation aspects on heritage protection and management is very less in India. Uh, we should continuously we should keep doing what we believe in. Then only that continuity should be there. So my personal interest is to actually uh, continue to publish what is there, or communicate from learnings from the practice at various levels of governance. And I am personally interested in building institutions, strengthening institutions. Then only these things will sustain
Right.
at different levels. In fact, I keep telling to my team that 90% of my professional work is I had to create myself. So, which means that I had to educate, I had to uh, 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 educate decision makers at various levels, and I have to work with them and I have to show the results.
Right.
When they are aware that, oh, this also can be done. So I can say for myself that, I always keep telling my team that 90% of my professional work, where we are a large team, we could sustain now, is because I do this institution building, capacity building to various at states, various institutions I work with, NGOs I work with. Yeah.
Right. Sure. Anitha, yeah.
Yeah, the future of heritage. We all wish and pray that it should be there, but the young minds, they are thinking in a very different way. They just want to go to abroad and all those things. So we cannot make them stay back. That is one thing. Even in INTACH and all, there are only the old people. They would be attending the meetings and all, because the young people, they are busy in their own way. That is another thing. Even though the awareness is that it is our heritage and all those things, because we parents, as we are all instilling in our children, that is there. But and the extreme commercialization, that is there. And the advocates, when I was asking about this PIL, that's one of, he's our member only, but he was saying 30,000, 50,000, 60,000, because he knows that I could spend from my. He thinks that I'll be spending from my pocket and all those things. He was like, so this is the kind of thing, like the doctors. We always say, no, the doctors are asking exorbitant. They are making use of the situation. That in the similar way, the advocates are also, doing that. So we people, we have to fight back. We have to keep a very strong vigilant on our heritage, and we should we should go to the institutions, schools and all, and we should instill this feeling that young INTACH is also doing, and our chapter is doing that. So I think we should all wish and pray that heritage should be intact, but because of the young minds, and let's just hope that everything is being done
Sure.
as it should.
Yeah. I thank my panelist. Anshika, would you like to take over?
Sure, ma'am.
Yeah. I think it was a very engaging discussion and a lot of talk about law and heritage after a long time. More in-depth conversations have to happen where experience sharing has to go on. But yes, and Anshika and Intac, I thank for the opportunity. I thank for all my panelists also for being so patient and answering so well. Anshika, I just request you to take the
Sure.
whole thing forward. Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, we'd like to thank all of you for giving us your time. We can open the floor for a few questions if any of the participants want to ask something. Of course, a lot of you have uh, raised your queries in the chat, and Vishakha ji and our panelists have been kind enough to answer them. But if there's something you would specifically like addressed, we have 5 minutes for that. So please do let us know. You can raise your hand and I'll unmute you. Uh, so I have one query from Swapna Kothari, who's asking if she can get in touch with the panelists with your permission, to seek your guidance?
Yeah, sure. I know a lot of the people in the participants are people who are wanting to do their doctoral researches related to modern architecture, to colonial architecture, to private heritage. Please do get in touch. Absolutely no problem. If you want, I think we can just type our email IDs for them to get in touch. So that's fine. Ashish, Sarath, Anitha, if you wish, type in your email.
Yeah, I'll do that right away. Sure.
Um, I don't see any other questions. So can I ask one actually? So
Go ahead.
we have this list of centrally protected monuments, and whenever we study, or we are given a number, that X number of monuments are on this centrally protected list, and of course we have all the state lists as well. So I want to understand that, do they revise the list? Do they add more monuments to the list? This is something I've never quite been able to understand.
So yeah, they remove,
They
as
remove,
we
I
all
know,
know.
like they lose monuments, but do they add?
They also added one or two after excavations, yes. But
Yes, they do.
overall, with a vision, with the vision to give representative quality to the diversity, to look at the parity of how things can be done. I think that overall review is still pending. But yes, now we have progressed a little further because now we at least have a conservation policy which is there, visible on the website of ASI, where you can actually see what is their policy to look after national monuments. So they are very small baby steps that are being taken because there is no pressure from anybody. See, if people accelerate the pressure, then only the heritage is going to get protected. Otherwise, it is like you can get away by doing anything. And not everyone goes to the site every day, right? So, what
Yeah,
is
that's precisely, yeah, precisely. That's why I showcased the farman of the Delhi Sultan to his own Subedar, who was his own son, that whatever you have done as a Subedar using your own powers is incorrect. Get back to the citizen and give that land back to them. So that acquisition was undone. I mean, it's the power of people for sure, but with the correct kind of documentation. Otherwise, we may get misled also. Sometimes heritage is used also against certain positive acts. So we need to be careful. I think that's what I would say. ASI do relisting. I mean, there are ways in which phases in which the listing was done. So there are chances of having that updated as well.
even there is a report of Niti Aayog who tried to look into the organization and how it functions. But multidisciplinary approaches and interdisciplinary approaches are far from getting inside. So it is though very interesting that protection cannot happen without four fronts fighting at the same time. One are the archaeologists or the persons who have the mandate to protect them. Other are the people who really think and want to bring in a lot of philosophies of what should be conserved and how it should be conserved. Third are the legal people themselves. How many lawyers specialize themselves in protecting heritage? There are just handpick of them who are doing the cases, and maximum of them are doing against mining. There is I mean, it was so fresh to know that Anitha had such different kinds of PILs be done. We are so unaware of what is happening across the country even on that front. So that is still there. And the fourth is citizen. Unless the citizen is aware and wants to protect it, how does it get protected? I think let it go attitude of everyone is not going to help to protect the heritage. Everyone has to be aware. Everyone has to contribute in their own little ways. Only then the things can really come to life.
Um, we have one query here. This project is asking that, can one shed some light on center-state relations in conservation matters? Laws are separate, but implementation is overlapping.
I think it's common everywhere. I mean, the state and central regulations are more or less aligned in Gujarat. So they've got similar way in which implementation is done. At the same time, the state head, the director of archaeology of Gujarat, is also the competent authority for the permission process as per the National Monument Authority. So they work hand in hand in certain cases in terms of their budgeting, in terms of their conservation projects, in terms of their, protection of the monuments. They work independently. But there are certain platforms in which they come together. In case of Ahmedabad, we have got both of them also on board for the Heritage Conservation Committee. So that's one where we have got local authority, state authority, and central authority coming together to discuss things.
Then one more question by Swapna Kothari. She wants to know about notification and why does the SDA not notify buildings? She mentions that they are fighting for the Navsari code since 2020 and it's been a roller coaster. So would
Ahmedabad.
would you be acquainted with the Navsari situation, Ashish?
Yeah, I think the demolition was halted. Of course, it was not protected or declared protected by the state archaeology as yet. But I think it's not only way to protect, as I have been continuously saying, because now Sari Court building is also one of those living buildings. It's not only about its architectural monumental values, and I think it comes sometimes in between for the decision makers. On the contrary, we had a case of the Upper Court of Junagadh where it was declared overnight, both by central and state authorities as protected, including almost all its features. So there are good and there are bad also, bad decisions also in the system. But
And
now, sorry,
uh,
please.
making things black and white makes administrators more responsible and accountable. Nobody wants anything black and white. The more ambiguous it is, you can just get away out of it. I think
Yeah, you're right. But yeah, but sometimes, I mean, there are people who would say, I want to take decisions. Sometimes the decisions are not correct. And some people who would actually shy away from making decisions also is a bad part. So I think sometimes it may happen, but there has to be a willingness to take decisions. Otherwise, we'll have no policies for taking it forward. जैसे हमारे लिए, I mean, one of the bigger question was to have facade guidelines for new buildings. I mean, if you don't have anything can come up. So it is good to have something. Of course, it is debatable, and there are some architects who would not like it. Some of them will like it. Some owners will not agree. Some owners will agree. But once we have certain guidelines, some process will start to reach the balance. Is what I would say.
Right. Uh, this is a very broad one now. Ritu Sharma mentions that activation of heritage committee at municipal corporation level is a struggle. Please guide on ways to make it work.
one simple
Um,
thing is you have to keep pushing it.
हाँ नहीं,
Till
हमारे यहाँ
something.
अहमदाबाद का ही बहुत अच्छा एग्जांपल है. 2010, one building went into liquidation. The owners built a very nice building, but they're not able to maintain it. The court says the liquidator can sell it off. Liquidator was interested in making best money out of it because there was a huge debt which was not paid. So obviously, liquidator was willing to get encashment as much as possible. But the court intervened and they said, if nobody is interested, let the local authority buy it, and liquidator get paid partially, not fully, whatever his willingness is. So certain payment was made. The property was owned by the municipal corporation. They started the restoration. This was the first time when the Heritage Conservation Committee's recommendations are required, because how now to restore? Now we have a ownership of the place, which was not the case earlier. So in 2010, there was a legal case and they said you need to do it. Now how to do it? They said let's go to our committee and ask them how to do it. This is the case of Calico Dome, which was an industrial building built in 1960s, even before the patent being filed for the geodesic dome construction by R.B. Fuller. This dome was constructed in Ahmedabad. Beautiful structure, and I think it triggered that activation of the committee.
Yes. So I think we have Okay, there's one more. No. Yes. Um, so it's specific to Vasai. So Jasmine Akekar mentions that in terms of tourists, there has been an increase in visitors as well after the ferry route near the Vasai fort had started. But the government is not taking any action in its revival or restoration. So I think Jasmine's previous question was also about Vasai Fort, and she highlighted how the neighboring Gorbandar Fort has been restored, but nothing much is happening for Vasai Fort.
Wouldn't, wouldn't.
These are all, I think, policy decisions, and the administration and the local authorities have to take a call on it. It is
I think
easier
it's
for
always good
us
to
to,
write.
yeah, yeah,
Why not done to the concerned officer first of all.
yeah, because we might think on many fronts, but it is really the implementers who also have to look at the feasibility. I can share another example, which is Vijayadurga Fort in Konkanna. The way you reach there is very difficult. So you have to go by boat to the fort, and then the whole lobby is controlled by the boatsmen there, and not a single new boatsman can come in there, nor the government is being able to intervene there. It is extremely unsafe when it gets overpopulated, but the business and the money overrides everything. So you cannot put government at fault all the time. It is a very, very tricky situation, because one person has to understand that the real estate values are very high when it comes to heritage properties, because there are prime properties. There are a lot of dynamics associated with it, which we are very unaware of when we are looking at it only from the heritage perspective. So I think protection is really not about right and wrong at times. It is also about feasibilities of what best can happen to the heritage.
And if I may add a little, because I know both of these places a little, Vasai Fort is very large in scale, and Gorbandar Fort is actually tiny. And like in the city, you everyone would know about Vasai Fort, would have seen some visuals, but Gorbandar Fort was fairly unknown for a very long time. And I believe that if they hadn't restored it, it would have been lost in another decade or so. With Vasai Fort, because of its popularity and scale, it's still and also because of, I think, the citizens of Vasai are very active about in it. But Gorbandar Fort is, I'm actually surprised to know that it has been restored, because it's been fairly neglected. So at least it's being protected, or some activity of some conservation has happened over there, because Vasai still is a very strong and very large fort. And obviously you would have visited it and know the place well, Jasmine.
Yeah, but this is again firefighting, you know. And this is exactly what Sarath is trying to mitigate through the entire evening, that firefightings don't help in long run. We have to be more proactive than just being satisfied. Kuch to ho gaya, chalo ho jane do. So it is going to get difficult day by day. Yeah.
Yes. So I think I'd hand over to Dr. Parul Munjal now to give her closing remarks.
Thank you, Anshika. And thank you, Dr. Vishakha, Kawathekar, and Ashish, Trambadia, and Sarath, Chandra, and Anitha ji for being here today. And thank you to the participants. There are a few, I think, some comments that have come in. Um, One is from Krutika that I can see, where she's asking about um, shared colonial heritage. I think, Vishakha, you already mentioned that some people are interested in research in this area. Maybe that's where it's coming from.
This question is about if there's in the Act a special provision for international cooperation for conservation and anything that addresses shared heritage sites, and what are the legal challenges in recognizing and protecting colonial era monuments under Indian heritage laws, and how do communities perceive colonial heritage? So lots of questions there, and I think all of us will agree to the point that uh, the legal frameworks don't have answers for everything, of course. So when you talk about protection, legal protection versus non-legal protection, both exist, of course. And um, if there have, I'm sure in terms of shared heritage, there have been many cases where there has been international cooperation, and there have been different governments who have um, even in fact funded projects for conservation of a documentation of shared heritage. So those kind of projects have happened in the past, and so mechanisms may not exist but can be created definitely. And uh, again, while the AMSR, the Act itself doesn't really have a provision to particularly address shared heritage in a specific way, again, this the Act itself probably cannot be necessarily the channel to protect, and the non-legal protection comes in definitely. There's, I think, one more question, Anshika, I can see from Chennai, which maybe some of us, any one of the panelists could maybe address. They,
Yeah,
uh,
uh, she is saying कि INTACH is being removed and it's only bureaucrats. Now there are two, three scenarios to it. Not all bureaucrats are unknown people and they are not heritage haters. So just having bureaucrats is not a problem, but bureaucrats not aiding to protection could be a problem. So we have to emphasize on technical upgradation of heritage committee, and that can only happen through conversations and consultations. There is no way to it. And for the shared heritage, I would like to add is also that age is not the only criteria. 100 years old and it can become a monument. If you have to get it protected through law, you have to get it declared as a national monument. So you have to again approach the authority with a lot of documentations to show the fact that there is a potential for it to become a national monument, and once it is being chartered as national monument, only then the law can protect. So I might want lot of things to get protected, but it's not really feasible unless it is declared as a monument, whether it is the national authorities like ASI, state authorities, whether it is the TCPO Act, or even a municipal corporation, the local bodies who are also empowered to declare something as a monument. The whole point is that notification has to be there. Unless it is being notified, nothing can get protected. And nowadays it is also very interesting because of this whole communications to all your parliamentarians that you have, because they can raise your questions in the parliament, and through parliament also a lot of instructions can come down. So I think it is very important that we look to top down and down to top approaches, where we have to look beyond boundaries, because till now within boundaries what we could achieve we have achieved, but now we will have to think a little more innovative to get things done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I think it was an very, very interesting discussion today, but we've probably just touched the tip of the iceberg. So I would request the panelists also to suggest, and the moderator Vishakha to where, and even maybe if we have suggestions from the audience, from the participants, that how do you think we can take this forward maybe in future discussions and dialogues? Would you be interested, I mean the participants, would you be interested to for us to take something forward more specific that we can focus on with respect to built heritage and law? So we would be happy to receive your comments. But I think from the Certainly from Ritu Sharma. Great. So please, you have access to our emails. You can please, this was an opportunity for us to connect, and we are already all the panelists have been very, very generous in sharing their contact information and being willing to be accessible to all the participants. So we wouldn't definitely want to close this here. We would want to take this forward, and I think the conversation needs to go on. And also, I feel that there is the examples that and the questions that have come up in this discussion today, whether they're with respect to how much change should we accept, what kind of uses should be what should we completely restrict and what should we allow, and who decides on these things, and where does the legal protection really help and where does it become a problem, in fact. So those kind of things, I think, need to be discussed and debated more, definitely. And I think the example that came from Ashish, which where the homeowner with a sense of pride was explaining his house about his house and its elements to the people. I think that's the ideal point where we all would love to reach. And I think INTACH members and other professionals and whoever has joined today in this discussion, I think that's the important part, that if we reach a point where the community, the people, the residents themselves have a sense of pride towards their heritage, and whether it's privately owned, whether it's modern, whether it's colonial, whether it's medieval, whatever it may be, ultimately we identify something as heritage and we identify the values that it holds for us. That is absolutely the first and the foremost important step, and that's where and how we can take it forward, be it through legal protection or be it through other mechanisms of people coming together to safeguard our heritage. So I think with this kind of a, I think, note where we uh, go home, I mean, today with this sense of hope that we all can make a difference. There is a possibility for us to create some kind of a voice for ourselves, create a sense of identity for ourselves as citizens who can all contribute to this process of safeguarding our heritage, is what we should take back today. And as I said, that we'd be happy to take these conversations forward. So this time, in fact, the idea today was to, in through this panel, bring in perspectives from Bangalore, from through Sarath, from Ahmedabad, through Ashish, through from Nagercoil, through Anitha ji, and of course Vishakha, to have tie it all together. And we would like to definitely continue this conversation, and we would love to hear many more of these ideas and ways in which people have maybe faced challenges in some cases and seen opportunities in a lot of cases as well. So thank you, everybody, and we would love to hear from you. This time we also floated that Google form because we wanted to understand a little better as to where our participants are coming from. What are the kinds of things you're thinking about? What are the kinds of challenges you're facing? So I think it's important that we engage with this further. We try to become we become vigilant, as I think we've all been talking about, and we learned from Anitha ji's presentation that being vigilant, being ready to make a difference is important, absolutely important. And we have to carry that spirit, and only then, if we care, then anybody cares. If we don't care, then nobody does. So thank you so much. It's lovely to see that we have this enthusiastic group that has joined us together today, and come up with all these questions, and it's been lovely. And thank you very much. We have a very good evening, rest of the evening, and my best wishes to everybody, and looking forward to continuing the conversation. Thank you.
It was a lovely evening. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. I'll end the meeting now.